Hello everyone and welcome to the podcast. This is the very first episode and I'll be talking about things such as Essen Spiel, Unmatched Adventures and maybe a little bit more. So first of all, let's talk Essen Spiel. Spiel is the event, Essen, it's just referred to as that, and that's because that's where it is. But it is really the Spiel event. It's a massive board gaming convention over in Germany. And I, along with a couple of friends, have booked our hotel rooms, we've booked our flights, and we are very, very excited. At least I am. I don't want to talk for them, but I'm super excited to be going back this year. It's been a few years, certainly since I went last. I haven't been since COVID hit, and then it was sort of postponed, it was delayed, then it came back, but you had to sort of jump through many hoops, and at that point I wasn't fully comfortable in travelling. But now it's this year, I'm sort of feeling happy to get on a plane. I'm looking forward to it. It sounds like it's going to be awesome because Essen always is. Essen, if you don't know, is one of the sort of conventions throughout the year where a lot of board games are announced and released, if that makes sense. In terms of, you can walk around, you can play the latest hotness, you can also, and it's kind of a big thing of Essen, buy the latest hotness. And when I say the latest hotness, they have games that don't actually hit retail necessarily at the same time. A lot of the time, games do sort of release in the what I would call the October Essen window because they are releasing just ahead of Christmas, so Essen is the best place or the best timing for them to release it, get a load of buzz from a convention, and hopefully it goes on to doing good winter sales, right? That's for the business, that's what they want. But why is Essen that fun if it's all about buying and stuff? Well, it's not. I really enjoy walking around, seeing the new games, talking to the people that are running them, and actually just being able to get hands-on. For instance, I played the new Azules when Azules was new, when they were coming out because they got shown off at Essen, and a few different games like that. I played Namiji, I think that's probably pronounced really badly, but the follow-up to Kaido. So I played that when it was in like a prototype form really early on. I played it actually at UK Games Expo in an even more prototype form, but I played it at sort of a almost ready state at Essen Spiel before it was released. So all that sort of stuff is possible, and yeah, I'm just really excited. Now, if you've not been and are looking to go, first of all, it's expensive. They definitely seem to jack up the hotel prices and stuff of that around the city for the different conventions and stuff that go on at the Messe halls. So whenever, regardless if it's board games or whatever, if there's a convention on, Essen isn't cheap. There's a few ways you can get around that though. First of all, you can stay in an Airbnb, maybe stay a little bit further out and travel in. As long as you're on a tram line, it's not too bad. This time we've gone for a hotel because while it's more expensive, it is a bit more convenient. And then there's other things. Food, not necessarily always cheap, but if you're happy to go to the supermarket, there's a number of them. You can grab, bits for breakfast, some like pastries or whatever. You can grab some bread and sandwich stuff. You can make that sort of stuff. You can make your lunch, and then you're not having to pay super amounts of money to actually eat in the convention hall. So yes, there's some great things about Essen but it's not cheap. But you can try to get around some of that. But stuff like hotels, it's hard work to find one that's not going to be expensive. You can obviously go for super luxury and spend multiple thousands of pounds, but that's not going to be for me or for many people. But I am going to Essen, super excited about it. It means you will definitely see a load of stuff when it's in the lead up. I will be going through that Essen list properly with a fine-tooth comb to find out what I want to be looking at the show, and potentially what's going to accidentally go straight into my basket. If I can get there quick enough, because sometimes you do see people running across the convention hall to get there first. fingers crossed. Last time I went, I did manage to get a press pass, which meant I got in like 15 minutes early ahead of the main crowd. I'm going to hope that I get that again, just because it's kind of weirdly magical walking round Essen. The Spiel, sorry, not Essen, the Spiel show, walking around that when the aisles are basically empty. It's a weird sight to see, but it's pretty awesome. Anyway, let me know if you're going to Essen, if you're hyped for it, or any other convention. What ones are you going to this year? Let me know in the comments section below. And now on to the next topic, which in this case is Unmatched Adventures. Now, I have actually recorded something on this before, and I deleted it because I certainly, when I listened back to it and thought, I felt quite bitter at that time. And that's because I was super hyped when they announced Unmatched Adventures, a cooperative style of play with 4 characters that you can use throughout just the normal Unmatched gameplay, but still you got 2 villains that you can fight up against in a cooperative nature. There's lots of positives, but there are some negatives. Now, first of all, I came from such a high hype point of them announcing a co-op Unmatched that maybe I set the bar too high, but the gameplay, I don't know what it's going to be like, but there's a few things that I have issues with, and certainly when as I said, I've recorded something on this before, and it was very bitter, and that's because it's not going, the Kickstarter at least, or GameFound, is not going to be available to people outside the US and Canada, and that really disappointed me. I was super hyped to be part of that campaign. I'm really I was happy to be part of the Unmatched storage solution thing. I was really happy to do that. I was really ready to throw my money down to get Unmatched Adventures, and then they came out and said, well, you're not in the US or Canada, over here in the UK obviously, you can't be part of it. And that was a little bit gutting, to be fair, and it did sort of take some of the shine off what I still believe will be a pretty cool product. And why? Well, not everyone likes the Unmatched 1v1, we're going to hit each other until someone dies. Just putting that co-op spin on it, I think, is going to allow it to get to the table with different people, and it does open up the option of me actually soloing the game. Now, I don't solo many games. It has to be very quick setup, which normally Unmatched is super quick. You get a board out, you shuffle a deck, you put some mini, each put a mini down, maybe a sidekick or 3, and then you're playing. Now, there's going to be admin of looking after what the villains do, but I'm okay with that if they haven't sort of made it a real slog. If it's getting to the stage where you're almost wanting someone to DM that role, which I really do hope it's not that level, then I would sort of stop playing, I think, after a bit of time. But if it's a case where you've shuffled their deck of cards, you turn it over and it's very obvious who it's targeting, what it's going to do, and you're not having to follow like a flowchart of, is the villain within 3 spaces of the character with the lowest health? Yes or no? No. Okay, then is it closest to the person it last attacked? Yes. Is it going to? Did it last do this? Yes or no? As long as it's very simple, like it moves towards the closest person and tries to kill them, or something just super simple that you turn the card over, you can do its action and get back to thinking about what you're doing to take it down, I'm going to be happy with that gameplay. That's what I'm hoping for. The other negative that I didn't really expect, I don't think, when I came into it, was the fact that I was always thinking it would be really cool to take on the T-Rex as like a big baddie, co-op against the T-Rex. What I didn't think of was the other side of it of, I want to be able to play as the T-Rex sometimes. Now, obviously, we've got the T-Rex set, you can play as the T-Rex, but there is no way to turn, unless, officially at least, to turn that into a villain. And the villains in this Unmatched Adventure set Mothman and the Martian invaders, there's no way to turn them into heroes that you can play. I fully understand the fact that the decks would have to probably be very different, because their deck as villains is going to have all the stuff to tell you how to move them, what to do and stuff on their turn. So I fully get that. I would really like to have seen it where maybe it was 2 heroes, 2 villains, but those villains also have hero decks. I just think that would add a bit more versatility, and they could, I would 100%, and as I'm sure a lot of Unmatched fans would, purchase a round of decks that are just, you've got this character already in your collection, but you buy this second deck for them and then you can play against them as a villain. I think there is an untapped amount of money that Restoration Games can make from that. I think a lot of people would be up for it, especially like, you know, the T-Rex. Maybe it's hard for them to do because there's that Jurassic Park license problem, but some of their other characters, alright, Bigfoot's retiring soon, which is, that kind of sucks a little bit, but let some of those characters be villains just through another deck. I think that would be a really cool way of adding stuff to the original sets. Yeah, you have to buy it as like a micro expansion deck sort of thing, but it would just allow that villain side of things to explode. Imagine, instead of just having those 2 villains, you could purchase 5 different decks, and then 5 different characters that you can normally play as a hero are also against it. I think that would just add a lot of replayability, whereas at the moment you've got 2 different villains. They do have a lot of sidekicks, or minions as they're called, so there's that, but I don't know, I'm still definitely going to be getting this when it gets to retail. Unfortunately for us over in the UK, that seems to always be about 6 months after anything else, like the Genie versus Houdini set, not here in the UK yet, and that's been out for months in the US. I've already started seeing posts on the Unmatched subreddit about Teen Spirit coming in. We are not clearly going to be getting that for another couple of months over here. And I think I love the Unmatched franchise. It's no slight spoilers, it's easily in my top 100. If you have not watched that, please do. You know, it's well up there, and I think because we always get sets late, it felt like it was like a bit more of a slap in the face when they said we couldn't even join the Kickstarter for Unmatched Adventures, because it was like, as soon as that was announced, the foils, which I don't care about too much, but the little minis, promos that they're going to be in there for the Martian invaders and stuff, it's going to be either super expensive or super hard for us to get those, because they just seem to be really hard to get promos over here in the UK for Unmatched, and we're going to be getting it so much later than the US. It's really taken the shine off a game that I was really hyped for, but I'm still 100% when that hits stores, I'm going to have my pre-order ready and waiting. And one thing I want to do in these podcasts is maybe briefly touch on a game that I've just started playing or just played for the first time or whatever, and Lords of Xidit is a sort of programming game which I had not heard of going into the last weekend, where I played it at Counterculture Games, my local board gaming shop, club area sort of thing, where you can go and buy or play games. And one of the guys that's always there, one of the regulars, brought in Lords of Xidit. It is, like I say, programming where you, on your turn, each round, you're sort of spinning these dials to say, yes, I'm going to walk along this blue route, then this red route, then I'm going to pick a dude up, then I'm going to move down this black route, and then effectively drop that dude off to help kill one of these sort of mobs that are spawning across sort of the land. And it worked fairly well. It's sort of, there's multiple victory not conditions, but multiple sort of things you need to pay attention to, and that was a really cool feature. I was let down by the programming. For me, the programming actually worked, but it did feel like if you got screwed over, maybe someone picked the archer that you were going to pick up on your turn. If someone had programmed and they got there just a little bit ahead of you, it did sometimes feel like your entire round was wasted. Now, Colt Express is a brilliant example, I think, of programming because it's chaotic, but the chaos has limits. If you were expecting to, maybe go up, maybe not up and down's maybe a bad example, but maybe you were expecting to go left down the train and go for a bit of loot that way, but someone had moved the marshal into a carriage in front of you. You can choose instead to use that left or right movement to go right. And then, yes, you're having to deal with what's coming up in the cards you've programmed, but you have some choice if something's gone a different way than you were expecting. In Lords of Xidit, it very much felt like I've programmed to go down this road, pick up person, this road, then this road, and then drop them off. And hopefully that's going to get me some sort of points, and I'll talk about that in a bit. It felt like if someone had beaten you to maybe take that monster out or to pick that person up, there was nothing you could do differently on your turn. It was, go down a black road or a red road. You've programmed, or a blue road, you've programmed one of those colours in. That didn't give you a choice when it came to your turn. It wasn't a case of, there's two blue roads you could be picking from here, left or right, or maybe left and up on the map. No, you've chosen to go down a blue road, you're following that blue road. There's nothing you can do about it, and that part really slightly bugged me. It just felt that I only had it happen once in the game where half of my turn someone had beaten me to something and it meant they'd killed the monster before I could get there, but I'd still picked some people up. But you could have it the other way where you've not been able to pick the person up, get to the location, not have the person to drop off, and it be fully a wasted round of 6 actions, and that just felt a little lackluster for me. The scoring, however, is a really interesting one. So when you take out these monsters, you get a choice. Do you want to put some effectively area majority tokens down into an adjacent region? That's a very interesting one because you can see it on the board apart from in the central location, and it goes into like a secret pot. Now you can sort of see, someone's got a lot over there, so there's not much point in me going in there, but there is to get second place in some of these areas. The other one is gold coins, which is secretive. You can see how many coins someone's taken, but then they put it behind their screen, so at the end of the game you're like, oof, how many coins have they got back there? And then the third one is a sort of like putting towers out on the map. Now we played at 3, which meant there was a dummy player. That actually didn't have as much impact as we thought, and in fact you can actually work together to completely void the dummy player out of contention, so it doesn't really matter too much. It wasn't as impactful as I think we all worried going into it. The way the scoring works though is at the end of the game, so very end of the game is completely finished, there is elimination based scoring. Whoever has the lowest, and it's in varied order, so it could be one game, let's say it's this, and one next game it could be in a different order of the 3. The first thing, you count up how much gold you've got. Whoever has the least gold is eliminated. Then you go over to those area majority tokens that you've been putting out. Whoever's got the most points from that, the least points from that, eliminated. And then the last one is then the towers, who's put the most towers out. Now, that actually wins the game. It's a really cool idea, and I was a little worried when I heard player elimination, but it's right at the very end, just to do with the scoring. And it really means you pay attention to what other people are doing, because all of a sudden it's like, right, I need to make sure, I don't need to necessarily, if gold is in the first sort of knockout, I don't need to have the most gold. I just need to not have the least. So it's that sort of logic of, when you're running away from a bear, you don't need to be the fastest, you just don't want to be the slowest. So it's really interesting. It's like, all right, and then it could be different in the next game. So maybe gold is that third thing, and actually it's whoever's built the most of those towers this time. So it's like, that's literally visible on the board. You can see how many towers other people have got. So when you've defeated this monster and you get 2 of the 3 options, you're like, okay, I can see I've got the fewest towers, so I need to put towers down. And then maybe I take the gold, but it was quite interesting that one of the players actively knew, just because of the way they'd played, and everyone sort of probably would have played slightly different going into a second game of this. They knew they could get through the first and second scoring rounds and not be eliminated, but they had basically no towers built, so they knew they could get to the final round, but they didn't know who they were going to lose against. And unfortunately I came out in one of the rounds 1 coin short, so I got eliminated, but otherwise if I had that maybe 1 or 2 more coins so I wasn't eliminated, I probably would have won. So it was a really interesting scoring mechanism there that I hadn't seen that in too many other games. I think maybe more should sort of try and use something like that. I probably wouldn't bother playing the game again just because I was frustrated, or I could see a real frustration point for myself in that programming of, you don't have an option if something at the start of the round happens that someone else has done, you can't change what you were planning. Now I know the whole idea of programming is you program your actions and you do something, but I do like the way, like I said in Cult Express or Mechs vs Minions, your card says you rotate 90 degrees. It's in Mechs vs Minions, maybe your character says rotate 90 degrees and then move. Your next card is move forward 1, but you could rotate left or right and then move forward 1 depending on what other people had done and stuff like that. So it just meant that while I'd programmed stuff, and often in this game it seemed to work out for me, just kind of luckily, I could see it being really frustrating if a few rounds just didn't go your way, because then it's like, I've just got nothing out of these effectively 12 actions. And that would suck. But yeah, that is Lords of Xidit? Lord of Xidit, not quite sure which, but yeah, it's an old game-ish. I think it was like 2014 when we looked it up. I'm glad I played it because it was certainly had some unique elements. Apparently it re-implements a game called Himalayas or something like that. I'd never played that and not really heard of either of them, to be honest. I'm glad I played it, but I probably wouldn't go back to it. But there you have it. I've waffled on for a little bit of time. We've talked Spiel, we've talked Unmatched. We'll probably talk about Unmatched a lot more on this podcast. And we've also talked about a game that I've recently played. Thank you for lending me your ears to listen to this podcast. If you want to hear more, let me know, because if people don't like it, I probably won't do another one. But if people do like it, I'll record some more. Why not? Anyway, thanks for listening, and hope you have a good day gaming.